In but a few short hours, we will officially be done with Ironheart, and in a couple of days after that, we are definitely going to be done with Ironheart, because it's hilarious, right? We've been through this cycle at least twice in the past 18 months, about a year ago at this time with the Acolyte, when that just trickled out and ended, and yeah, it was kind of funny to watch it get kicked around by people and reviewing it, and it was a lot of enjoyable content around the show. The show itself is absolute dog water, and it has totally killed off any enthusiasm for anything Star Wars. Well, I should say Filoni and Disney Star Wars. If it's Tony Gilroy Star Wars, that's totally different. Most people don't even consider that Star Wars anyway, so what's the point? But no, also going back to Marvel, to fully flesh out what we're experiencing right now with Ironheart. Does anybody remember how Echo came out? Echo in January of 2024. Yeah, it all came out. All 5 episodes dropped on one day, and nobody's made mention of anything from that reservation since. Even though it did get a passing mention in Daredevil Born Again, which is so funny that showrunner said that, oh yeah, no, we won't delve into any of the cringier stuff that Daredevil was up to in She-Hulk, but Echo's Prime to mention. It's like so interesting, just the priorities of Disney and Marvel showrunners, because at an opportunity, man, you could have just canned this project, and Ironheart didn't have to see the light of day. You could have paid the penalties. You could have just shelved it, because honestly, like, opportunity costs and brand damage of this thing, it's arguably more expensive than what it would have cost to just pay to make this go away, because there's not going to be any future for Ironheart. Nobody outside of just the fringest of weirdos, because I don't know, man, like I really disconnected from social media over the weekend, as I've been prone to for the past, for a little while, mostly because I'm trying to get my health back on point. Though getting too in-depth and sidetrack and stuff, things have been out of whack lately, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, but I digress. Okay, so yeah, I've been staying out of the social media stuff over the weekend, getting unplugged, and the little bit that I did engage with it, just taking a look at YouTube and then just pulling up a podcast or something to listen to while I go and exercise. Aside of people just pointing and laughing at Ironheart, like, there's no enthusiasm to this. So when I end up hearing something like this, that Ironheart ratings in the gutter, absent from Illuminate viewership charts, I'm not surprised at all whatsoever. As we'll talk about either later today or I think tomorrow, depending on how everything is shaking out. But yeah, the brand damage from Marvel is from Ironheart. I don't really know, man, because by the time that everything's all done and dusted, like, okay, cool, Mephisto's in the MCU, hopefully he can do something of more consequence down the road. But it's a show that people are going to dunk on probably through the end of the week, but by that time, everybody has made their subsequent jokes, have talked about the legacy characters, that the goofy-ass cast of characters have either, denigrated purposefully or incidentally because it's written so absolutely abhorrently. We'll be talking about how bad and underperforming Jurassic World is going to be, because holy crap, man, that's something else that we're going to have to talk about. Spoilers for a few videos that are coming out in the very near future. Hollywood's in trouble because this whole big bombastic July ain't really shaping up like that. But before we talk about that dumpster fire, we need to talk about the tire fire that is specifically Marvel. So yeah, the Luminate ratings for last week came out, and yeah, I don't think anybody's really shocked that Ironheart didn't show up on those. I mean, it's a show that has absolutely zero appeal. It wasn't marketed at all by Disney. They did not get behind this outside of going, hey, Ryan Coogler has Sinners in theaters, and that was doing good. Hey, he executive produced this. What exactly he did for this production? Don't know, but we can just throw his name on it because he's the most recognizable person that they can put out front, because Sacha Baron Cohen is Mephisto, but they don't want to tip their hand on that reveal, I guess. Whatever, man. That's what they want to do, and this is the outcome that they got. So, Luminate film and TV streaming viewership is owned by Eldridge Industries and Penske Media Corporation. Together, they're behind major brands like Billboard, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Rolling Stone, and Dick Clark Productions. Really? Okay. Eldridge also owns a stake at LA Dodgers, A24, Vivid Seats, with broader investments spanning media, finance, tech, and real estate. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I see Variety pump them out all the time, and Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, all of those industry rags are all owned by the same people. But yes, streaming originals chart for June 20th through the 26th. Number 1 is Waterfront, and then, yeah, Love Island USA, Ginny and Georgia. We Were Liars, America's Sweetheart, to Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Wait, what? I haven't heard of. Oh, okay, Mobland, lol. That's been over for what? How many weeks at this point in time, and it is still in the top 10? Yo, there is nothing going on right now. That's kind of wild. But yeah, just goes to show you, man, word of mouth for a show, because in the lead up to Mobland, okay, like everybody was looking at that project, going, okay, Guy Ritchie, all right, ooh, Pierce Brosnan, Tom Hardy, Helen Mirren, Patty Constantine. It's like, oh, that's a pretty good cast. We'll see what happens. And yeah, here we are a few weeks after it just wrapped up with its first season. Second season got greenlit, and it is still one of the best performing shows that's out there. Meanwhile, Ironheart can't even get a look in. It can't even chart with, oh my god, yeah, 260 million minutes watched is the floor. That's kind of crazy when most of the time whenever we've been doing these ratings charts, whether it be Rings of Power, Agatha, or even Daredevil Born Again, like everything within the past year or so, normally the floor is somewhere in on and around 325, 340. But here's 260. And it's nowhere close. And it had, what, because when would that have Tuesday have been, right? So yeah, I guess it would have only had, what, 2.5 days. So next week's numbers, they'll paint a little bit more of a complete picture, but I still don't anticipate Ironheart to chart at all, because yeah, it'll have a couple of days for its 3-part finale in the full 3 days. I'm sorry, the full week for the first 3 episodes, but there's no good word of mouth on this one. None at all whatsoever. Unlike Mobland, you take a look at the reviews that are out there, and yeah, Ironheart reactions are brutal. Rotten Tomatoes audience score plummets, because the last time we looked at that, it debuted at, what, 32%, and then very conspicuously popped up to the mid-60s, and now it's, I think, back below 50, but we'll take a look. But yeah, trailers rack up massive dislike ratios, and critic scores soar. Yeah, interesting how that always works. Like, what's the acolyte? I still think that the critic score is over 80. I think it was like 82 for the longest time. It could still be there, but yeah, audience scores through the floor, and yeah, okay, audience scores back to in on and around 50%. After flurry of early headlines accusing critics of review bombing, Ironheart has now entered a very different phase of audience reactions. Yeah, now people have watched it, and outside of just the freaks, like, what is it, the Friday Night Tights crew, all of those guys, Gary Nerdrotic and all of them, I know that they mentioned it on the most recent show, but somebody who's affiliated with the Young Turks or something like that put them through the ringer, and now Black Corners, like the Ironheart Black, not the color black, but they represent black. It's very interesting. The progressive side of things. There we go. The people of color side of social media want to put them through the ringer for accurately reviewing Ironheart and watching it and thinking that it's garbage. And now everybody else is caught up to that. And they're like, shucks, I guess we really have to rest our laurels on the second half of this series to really deliver on that character development. Spoilers, it's not going to. And in fact, it's going to get worse. That's at least what I've heard from some rumors that are out there from multiple different people. So I guess we'll talk about that later this week. We'll see how far these audience scores can really drop, but all right. The 3-episode premiere dropped on the 24th, and it didn't take long before fan commentary, across YouTube, Rotten Tomatoes, Critic List, IMDb, and other review platforms turned sharply negative. Yeah, exactly. Ironheart launched both critic and audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes, hovered in the mid to low 60s. Parody didn't last long, with audience scores dipping below 56%. Critic scores have quietly risen to 85%. Yeah, tends to be what happens with all of these bad shows. Kind of divergences becoming more common for Disney projects. Critics appear eager to give the benefit of the doubt to anything with progressive bent or franchise legacy. When it comes to Ironheart, the entertainment factor just isn't there for most. Yeah, because from the reviews that I've listened to, like, there's nothing redeemable about this. Like, the performances are incredibly poor. The writing is self-contradictory. Okay, either Riri Williams was a super genius who built her suit on her own, or she used her grant money, or she used the money that she obtained by selling her stepdad's car to build the suit, or the answer to the question is whatever she needs it to be, depending on the group that she's in, because it's a very well written and very coherent show. It's not a total slapdash mess that wasn't re-edited to hell and back because it's been sat on the shelf for the better part of 2.5 years. And yeah, there was probably a lot more, or additional episodes rather. Don't know if there was a lot more, but there were probably several other episodes. I would imagine this probably had your traditional 8 or 9 episode run that all of these Marvel shows did. And then just like Echo went from being 9 episodes to 8 episodes and then landed at 5. And I would imagine, yeah, it's probably not too different for Ironheart here. Probably something that started out at 8 and then worked it down to 6. Hence why there's just such a lack of continuity and coherency. Beyond Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, oh yeah, because the show holds a dismal 3.6. And when we first looked at it, when the scores first came out, it was sitting cozy at a 4.0, but now it's 3.6. Yeah, the lowest rated Marvel projects ever, even below Secret Invasion, which, holy crap, that was like that was really bad. But at least it had Samuel L. Jackson, something somewhat likable, but this has, well, nothing. This has the world's oldest 19-year-old. Beyond Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, viewer sentiment has been on full display through the backlash at Marvel's own promotional videos. Yeah, dislike ratios are stunning. Yeah, there you have the official reveal trailer, which came out a couple of weeks before the show dropped, just letting you know that Disney has no faith in this project at all whatsoever. They have to release it, but at this point in time, okay, you thought this was a good idea somewhere along the line, so I'm not going to give them any benefit of the doubt when it comes to they just wanted to quietly release it. They needed to release it. No, they thought this was a good idea somewhere along the line, but they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, the DEI cookie jar, and hey, you got to wear this one. But hey, get excited for Fantastic Four first steps. It's totally going to be completely different, just like how the Thunderbolts was the first step along the line for our refocusing on quality instead of quantity. Yeah, good stuff, man. I'll totally believe you the next time you run out that trite talking point. But while we haven't heard anything in regards to Backlash, which I would imagine if there's going to be any Ironheart fallout, it'll probably come from the rest of the cast of characters that are getting rightly derided for their performances, not for who they are. I'm sure there's probably some fringe weirdos that are out there saying that this is bad because it's black, but no, this is just it's just a bad show with a bunch of weird people that have various levels of skill. Looking directly at you, slug, it's very obvious that it's your first acting gig. And I'm sure they're going to crash out in the near future because a lot of them didn't have a career beforehand and very likely won't afterwards. But one guy who at least has a resume and has somewhat of a future in Hollywood, and that would be Anthony Ramos, the Hood, okay, the race-swapped Hood, or the Hood in this show, addresses the negativity around Ironheart. And you know what? For as much negativity as there is around Ironheart, he's at least lending some positivity. Hey, at least they're talking about it. That's about the nicest way that you can put it. So good on you, my friend. Anthony Ramos, who plays Parker Robbins in Marvel Studios' Ironheart, addressed the negativity surrounding the show after. Yes, Ironheart has received significant criticism, currently has an atrocious 3.6 out of 10 on IMDb, and has fluctuating, goddamn, man, a lot of those, a lot of ones, and a lot of twos, in fact, but people will tell you that that's review bombing. Oh, look at that. Oh, 52% of the reviews are all one-star reviews. But you could also take a look at the perfect 10, which is like, come on, man. That's the second highest category. You can't tell me that there's also a different type of review bombing going on right here, leading to an even more inflated review right now. But Rotten Tomatoes, you got 56% audience score on that one. Pop culture critic Gary Beekler on his YouTube channel, Nerdrotic, decried the series, saying after 3 episodes, it's by far the worst live action Marvel ever made. It's indeed Marvel's Acolyte. Yeah, in performance, in every metric that matters, but it's just it's not taken off like that. Like, outside of a couple of cringe weirdos that just want to, uphold anything that is black in Marvel, nobody's going to be talking about this, man. It's just going to fall off the face of the earth in probably 10 days' time. This time, 2 weeks from now, I would be surprised if we are still talking about this show. There might be some crash outs, but outside of that, man, this is going to be one and done, and we're just going to be heading into all of the freakouts surrounding Superman, which, I'm sure that's certainly with the different factions of DC fandom, and then of course the Snyder Bros that are out there that are just waiting for this to potentially perform worse than Man of Steel, adjusted for inflation, and if you take into account that now ticket prices are more, and it's just going to get so messy. That's why I'm kind of glad Ironheart is just going to be out of the zeitgeist very, very quickly. So in response to these criticisms, Ramos told us seasoned BuzzFeed. What? Okay, so he has to go over the season their BuzzFeed, because that's who's covering it. Okay, they even season their BuzzFeed, huh? Okay, so you're going to have negativity no matter what. Transformers, people talking shit. This one, people talking shit. Everybody's going to say what they're going to say. But at the end of the day, we know what we made, and we're proud of what we made. Well, look, in a vacuum, that's totally fine, okay? He's not taking shots at anybody. He's like, hey, people have a right to be critical of it. That's fine. I don't mind this statement so far. And I think of it, when you're doing, when you're the first of a thing, they're not necessarily the first to do this, but of all of the shows, we're definitely different, right? And I think that when you're stepping out a little bit like that, and you put yourself in a position where for people to say whatever they want, what I think, that everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and at least they're talking about it, right? And if they ain't, I'd be worried, he concluded. And yeah, no, that's totally fine. I'm actually not at all mad at that sentiment, mostly because the Hood's a cool character, and we'll see what happens with him in the second half of Ironheart, mostly because he's about the only thing of some interest going into that. Not very much, but there is some out there. But in so much as I'm fine with that statement, it also reinforces this old trope that a lot of people just used to think about entertainment. They used to think about popularity and notoriety, full stop, that any publicity is good publicity. And that's clearly not the case. We've seen it time and time again now, especially in the digital age, that yeah, if you have overwhelming amounts of negativity on your project, people aren't going to watch it. They're going to consume the content talking about the widely derided content, and you're just going to end up having to apply all of those skills you learned to film Ironheart and apply them to your regular life. Not in the case of Ramos, but for the rest of that, cast of characters, they're really going to have to go into the real world, and they're going to have to go out there and steal and break and enter in order to make ends meet, because good luck getting a career after this, because your performances haven't really inspired anyone to pick up the phone and hire a drag queen hacker with nails that would make Nicki Minaj blush, or a tranny bodyguard with combat skills that make Bella Ramsey look like a UFC champion. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.